Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of Almost Normal. I don't think I have spoken about my OCD diagnosis in a while. Maybe I have briefly mentioned it in the context of some other story, but I don't think I have sat down with you guys and really spoken about where I am at with that. And recently, I have been making some very, very exciting developments and moves in therapy, specifically CBT. And I just wanted to sit down and talk to you guys about it. It is very, very exciting. It is not something I thought would ever happen, ever. When I realized that I suffered with OCD, I gave myself a life sentence and I basically said, I'm never going to get better. This is going to be how I live my life forever. And I mostly realized and understood my symptoms once I got sober. Once I stopped drinking and doing drugs, that's when it really came out in a scary way. And I think if you ask any alcoholic or drug addict, most of them will say that once they stopped taking the substances, they realized that they were actually dealing with some underlying psychological issue. And that's typically why they drank, and that's typically why they did drugs. And I would say that that's very, very much my experience. I have a low intolerance for discomfort, as my therapist once said, and it makes so much sense that if I was having an anxious spiral about something, and if you suffer with OCD, you have anxious spirals all the time about everything and nothing at the same time. And so it makes so much sense to me that I would, when I was drinking, would feel that and instantly want to numb those emotions with whatever I had at hand at the time. And I never thought that therapy would be something that would be helpful to me. I really, what's the term when you just cast it off? I just took it off the table. For some reason, therapy, I was like, I don't think it's going to help. I think the severity of my obsessive compulsive disorder is way too strong for a woman talking to me to help. Like, I don't understand. I'm clearly experiencing a deep chemical imbalance. I don't think speaking to someone about it is going to improve. And how wrong I was. And I just really, really want to discuss this specifically for anyone that is also going through it. Because again, I know that when it's at its worst and when you have never experienced it be better, it's really hard to believe that you will ever be able to live a different kind of life, a life that is not completely dictated by what your OCD wants you to do and by what your OCD wants you to think. I was controlled 100% by my thoughts, and I thought that that was just how I was going to live my life forever. It would keep me in bed for days. I was absolutely terrified that I was going to hurt myself or that I was going to hurt somebody else. I was always afraid that I was going to let somebody down. I would be driving my car and my OCD would kick in and say, did you just hit someone with your car a few streets back? And I would be like, no, I don't think so. I didn't hear or feel anything. I didn't notice anything. So I think that if I hit someone, I'd probably notice. And my OCD would say, no, you might not have noticed. I think you should go back and check. And I would then drive around that block 10 to 20 times, depending on how long my OCD wanted me to do it for, to just double check that I did not, in fact, hit anyone with my car. I would be looking for a body lying on the side of the street. I would be looking for police cars. And this happened regularly. And it made me late to a lot of things, as you can tell. And it also just fucking stressed me out so much. I just knew that the minute I left my house, I would be having to do obsessive things like that. And it was just tiring. And I ended up just not wanting to leave my house. But honestly, that didn't help. I then had obsessive compulsions when I was even in my house, especially around other people. If I ordered food to the house, I would have obsessive compulsive thoughts about the delivery driver. It was endless, endless, endless. And I had to leave class so many times. It was getting in the way of my education. I would be driving home crying and saying, like, I can't live like this. This is absolutely impossible. I don't feel like I'm enjoying anything. I can't enjoy people. I can't enjoy food. The world around me is so beautiful, but I can't recognize it. I could be surrounded by every person I've ever loved in my favorite place in the world, in front of a table of all of my favorite foods. And when my OCD is overtaking and is loud and strong, I can't appreciate anything. And I also started to get triggered by specific types of people. I don't know how that happened. My OCD really grabbed onto very specific things, so very specific places, very specific types of people. It started to make me feel like I was very intolerant of certain groups of people, even though I wasn't, but my brain was telling me that I was. It really was getting so in the way of my life. It was not something that I just lived my life with and it was kind of an inconvenience. Like, I really had to um change the way I did things and said things, because I was like, I don't want to set my anxiety and OCD off. And to be honest, even when I made those changes to cater to my OCD, it would come up with new things that I then had to deal with. It was endless, endless. And I really felt helpless. And again, for some reason, I had completely just shunned the idea of talk therapy. I was like, no, it's not going to work. It's just not going to work. So I initially went to a psychiatrist and I got a very high dose of medications. I started on Lexapro, and then the Lexapro made me so tired. I couldn't go to class. I was like falling asleep at the wheel on the highway. It was very bad, so that didn't work. And then I started to take Prozac, which was much better, and that's what I'm on now. But, I would keep having these thoughts, these scary thoughts. And so I'd call my psychiatrist and I'd say, hey, can we just up my dose? Because I just don't want to feel fucking anything. I'm terrified of my mind. And, I ended up going on really, really high amounts of these medications, and they were just giving me not really the best quality of life either, because I was exhausted and I was just floaty and I was avoiding these emotions. I was completely avoiding any sense of discomfort, just as I would when I was drinking and doing drugs. Okay. It was like I need an immediate end to what I'm going through in my head. And so I just turned to my psychiatrist and I was like, hey, like, just to let you know, I am an alcoholic and a drug addict. Like, there are certain things I cannot take. But I was like, you know what? Whatever stays safe, with my sobriety, like, let's go to the highest. And it honestly has just been making me kind of a zombie. And I still have the thoughts. The only thing that the medication really changed for me was that sort of panicky feeling in my gut every time. And I've spoken to people with OCD before, and they say that they have a few panics a day, maybe once, sometimes, if they're lucky. For me, it was a new panic about something every 30 minutes. And to be honest, there were some days where it was constant. Like, I did not have a second where I wasn't panicking about something. And it was fucking exhausting. It was exhausting. It was exhausting. Um, yes, it would bring me to tears. It would bring me to tears a lot. I was just not living a real life, and that really fucked me up. With my sobriety too. I stayed sober, but I was thinking, not drinking alcohol and not doing drugs is really hard for me because I am addicted to them. I love doing them. It's a lot of work to not do those things anymore. It's a lot of fucking work. It's a lot of meetings. It's a lot of talking. It's a lot of self-will to go to a bar and say, "Oh, can I just have a Diet Coke, please?" Like that gets easier over time, but I always, have to work on that. I always have to think about that. I can't stop thinking about that. And that's going to be something I do for life. And in that moment, before I started doing CBT and proper talk therapy, I was like, what is the point of all of this work if I'm not even living a life now? Like, I wasn't living a good life when I was drinking, but I'm not living a good life now either, I'm letting substances and mental health hold me back from living like a life a human being is meant to live. And I can't do it anymore. So I decided, let me just try therapy, okay? I have a year left of school. I have insurance through my school. Like, let's just use it. Honestly, by the last year of school, I realized that I had not taken advantage of my insurance whatsoever. And I was like, oh, fuck, I only have one more year here. Like, let's really use it up as much as possible. So I found myself a gynecologist, or I have been trying to find myself a gynecologist through my insurance. But I found myself a GP, and I found myself a therapist. And I was like, let's just try it. Because honestly, the moments that I tried therapy, I really, really wasn't ready. And I will just say this, with any sort of recovery from anything, whether it be recovery from mental health, eating recovery, drugs recovery, anything, you can only achieve those things if you feel like you want to do it for yourself, okay? Initially you can go into those things with other people in mind, whatever gets you started, that's fine. A lot of people aren't like, hey, I really want to change my life. A lot of people aren't like that. So, for example, for me, I started making changes when I met my husband, because I was like, shit, I love this person and I don't want to let them down anymore, and I'm going to make a change. That's what got me into recovery in the first place. Now it's all about me wanting to be there, okay? I wouldn't be able to last this long if it was purely because of somebody else. I don't know why I started to say that. I had a point to that, and now I've forgotten what it was. What was I saying? I was saying, yeah, you can do that. No, I'm gonna... Maybe I wasn't ready for therapy. Okay, that's what I was saying. When I first tried therapy a couple times, I think I tried it once before I'd stopped drinking, which was just like, what the hell am I doing? Gotta figure out that first thing first before I try and have a therapist tell me that I need to stop drinking. I don't know. I tried it once when I was drinking, and that just obviously went tits up, so I understand that. I think I tried again once after I stopped drinking. I think I might not have even, I honestly think that I just had this preconception of talk therapy, probably because people around me told me it didn't work and I just listened to them, because a huge part of my recovery is understanding that I don't have a lot of confidence in my own thoughts, opinions, and ideas, and I am working on that, and that is a huge part of this therapy I'm doing. CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy, is starting to be like, you know what you're doing, you're a human being, you have thoughts and processes and emotions, and you should start to trust them. So I started doing CBT, and for a while, it was very much like getting to know each other. And in the beginning, I was like, I'm going to quit this because I don't understand how this is fucking helping me. I suppose initially they need to sort of understand what you're about, which I get now. But the first few months was very much like, when are we getting to the work? What I will say is, having a schedule once a week to talk to this person allowed me to delay my panic responses. I would say, okay, I'm panicking about this thing right now, but I'm going to be talking to my doctor on Tuesday. So let's just wait to try and figure out how to control this panic, or let's just wait to respond to this panic. Let's just wait before we give in to our compulsions and rituals. Let's just wait till Tuesday. Because Tuesday, I can talk to her about it and she can let me know what to do. And so I would say that before we even really got into the meat of CBT, that was very, very helpful. The fact that I knew that I had someone that I could just spill everything to once a week, same time, same day, every week. And it allowed me to delay a lot of things I was freaking out about. And by Tuesday, I had probably forgotten most of the things that I was panicking about anyway. And so that was probably the first time I'd ever been able to be like, hey, let's just not have a snap reaction to this thing that we're thinking about. And let's just wait. Let's just wait. Okay, if we want to write it down, we can. But clearly, if it's panicking you so much, it must be really important. We're not going to forget. We don't have to write it down. And then by Tuesday, I had forgotten about it because pretty much 100% of the things that I panic about when it comes to OCD is not real. It's not reality. It is fake. Your brain is very capable of making up things that seem real. And if you are someone with OCD and you are someone that does not trust their own judgment, trust their own opinions, have trust in their memories, have trust in their brain. If you are someone like that, then OCD, um, it can get into your perception of reality very, very easily, because you're not like, hey, I'm a human being and I know that that didn't happen. You're like, oh, I don't trust my reality, so I'm going to listen to this other voice inside of my head and maybe that's right. And that's what I was experiencing. The big juice of it, okay, has started to trickle in, and it's been very, very exciting. And I have been able to do some things that I literally never, ever, ever, and I swear to God, because I hear people say things like in certain other different types of recovery when they're like, I never thought I'd be able to do this, but honestly, like, if I can do it, you can do it. I hate it when people said that, because I'm like, I'm not you, you're not me, so you don't know if I can do it. I feel like I'm probably suffering much worse than you. If you can do it, then you probably weren't suffering that badly. Like, that's a very bad way to look at things, but that's definitely how I reacted when I heard people say, oh, if I can do it, you can do it. I'm gonna say it though, like, if I can do it, I promise you can do it. And I promise it is scary, but you can do it. Like, I swear I was a debilitated wreck. I was controlled by my anxious brain 100%. I never thought I would be able to do the things that I've been doing in the past weeks. It's changed my life. And I didn't realize how much these little rituals I had done every single time. I didn't realize how much these rituals I would do affected how I thought. And I see now that since trying to ignore them and trying to move past them without acting on them, I can now see how differently I see the world and how differently I can appreciate the world. And it is magic. It's honestly magical. And so, yes. So, something that me and my therapist have been getting into the past couple weeks is something called exposure therapy. And I am just going to explain what it is, why it works, how it works, what you have to do. And then I'm going to get into my specific thing that I had to work on, which, by the way, when she told me what I had to do in order to use exposure therapy, I said no. I was like, hell no, I'm not going to be able to do any of this stuff. This is going to be absolutely impossible. I did it, okay? And the results are magic and quick and the most effective thing I've ever done for my OCD. So I'm just going to read out some things about it, and then we'll get into it a little bit more. So exposure therapy is a cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT, that works by gently and repeatedly exposing you to the thoughts, situations, or objects that trigger anxiety. without letting you use your usual safety behaviors like avoiding the situation or performing compulsions. Over time, this helps your brain unlearn the fear response. Here is a breakdown of the psychology behind it. So, one, fear, learning, and avoidance. When we experience anxiety, our brain creates an association between a situation, say bathroom, social event, certain objects, and danger. Avoiding the situation or using a ritual, like taking a video before going to the bathroom, which is something I did, I'll get into that later, gives short term relief, but it teaches the brain, yes, this is dangerous. Avoidance kept you safe. Over time, the fear loop gets stronger and stronger and stronger and stronger. Okay, number two is the extinction learning. Exposure therapy interrupts that loop. By deliberately facing the feared situation without doing the ritual, your brain gets new evidence nothing bad happened. This is called extinction learning. You're not erasing the old fear memory, but you're creating a new memory that says, this is safe. With repetition, the safe memory becomes easier for the brain to access than the fearful one. Number three, habituation and emotional processing. When you sit with the anxiety, you notice that it rises, but eventually peaks and falls on its own, even without you doing anything. This process is called habituation. It teaches you that the anxiety is tolerable and temporary. Emotionally, this is very empowering because you stop feeling controlled by the fear. Number four is inhibitory learning. Modern research shows that exposure therapy isn't just about getting used to fear. It's about teaching the brain a stronger competing message. For example, old belief, if I don't take a video, something bad will happen. Again, that was some compulsion I had. New learning, I didn't take a video and nothing happened, so maybe my fear isn't accurate. This new learning helps override the old fear response. Number five, reduction of safety behaviors. Part of exposure therapy is removing the safety nets, like taking photos, texting someone right after, checking repeatedly, so you can fully experience the anxiety and discover that you can handle it. This is what helps the brain update its threat prediction. So when I was in my deep state of OCD and anxiety, my brain couldn't tell the difference between going to a public bathroom and being chased by a madman with a knife, okay? It didn't understand that those were two very, very different scenarios, and one was an everyday normal activity and the other was a life and death situation. So, as I had briefly mentioned earlier in the video, I believe one of my huge triggers was public bathrooms. I genuinely couldn't really leave a public bathroom without my brain convincing me that something bad had happened, like I was sexually assaulted, or someone had come in the bathroom with me, or I had just done something bad in the bathroom. It was a huge trigger for me. And of course, that's a very, very difficult trigger to have because if you leave your house, the human body functions as it's meant to, you're going to need to use the bathroom once or twice, at least in the day. And so this was a repeated trigger and it was constantly on my mind because even when I didn't need to go to the bathroom, I would be thinking about it and I would be thinking, oh my God, what am I going to do when I need to go to the bathroom? I'm going to spend the rest of the day panicking. So it was kind of an endless thought loop. I really didn't have a moment away from it. And then, of course, when you're nervous, well, for me at least, when I get nervous, I need to pee. And especially if I get nervous about peeing, I'm really going to have to pee. Like, I don't know how to explain this to someone that doesn't have that, but okay. So if you're lying in bed, let's say you're lying in bed and you're super, super cozy, you're all warm and tucked in. And then you start to think, oh my God, if I have to pee, that's going to be super annoying because I'm going to have to get up, get out of bed where it's going to be cold, and I'm going to have to walk to the bathroom and sit on the toilet, and then I'm going to have to walk back, and I already got all comfy, and I really don't want to have to do that. If you start thinking about that way too much, you're just going to have to go to the bathroom. Like, you're going to be obsessing over that area of your body, and you're going to be so obsessed with not needing to pee that you're just going to need to pee, you know? I think they say that when they hypnotize people, hypnosis, I don't know if anyone believes in that, I haven't tried it, they say, you know, if you are trying not to smoke cigarettes, and you say, don't smoke cigarettes, your brain is just going to think about smoking cigarettes. It's not going to register the don't. And so the more you think about something, you're gonna want to do it more. Your brain's gonna become obsessed about it, especially if it's something you don't want to do. Okay. So yes, I would be thinking about this all the time, all day, every day. And it's ridiculous. Like, that is just not a way to live, okay? My husband's telling me something, a story about his day, and I'm just thinking about the toilet. It's like, no, we can't be living like this anymore. So, my therapist, about a couple weeks ago, was like, my homework for you is to go to the bathroom without obsessively taking any videos or photographs. And this is something that I never ever thought I could do, because I was like, how can I trust my brain to tell me that nothing bad happened if I don't have photographic evidence that nothing bad happened? I don't trust my brain enough. I don't trust my brain enough, okay? So if my brain says nothing bad happened, I'm not going to believe it. And she says, yes, but that's only because you have a crutch. You have a safety crutch. You have to take that crutch away, all right? You have to take that crutch away and believe in yourself. That's the only way you're going to start trusting your thoughts. An example of this in the day-to-day life of a regular human being would be, let's say you are living alone. Let's say you are living alone and you know how to work the washing machine, you know how to buy detergent, you know how to go down and put it all in the machine, you know how to switch it on and take your clothes out, you know how to put them in the dryer. You have all of this information, you are able to do it. But when you go home to see your parents or whatever, suddenly that knowledge just seems to go fucking out the window, because you have a crutch, you have someone else to help you. And so you ask incessantly for help. You say, how do I do this? How do I put the detergent in? How do I help this? Do I put that in there? Like, you complicate things so much because you have someone to ask, but you know in your head that you are able to do these things on your own. So that is how I would sort of compare. Like, I had a crutch, and the crutch was not allowing me to learn that my brain could be trusted. And so these past couple weeks, I have been going to the bathroom without taking my phone with me. And the first time I did it, it was right after my therapy session where she told me that I should start doing this. I had to drive to school, get to class, and I needed to go to the bathroom. And I stood outside the bathroom for a while, taking big, deep breaths, which she said that I should do. She said if there's no one to give my phone to, or if there's no safe place to put my phone, I just turn it off and bring it in with me. But preferably, like, don't bring your phone into the toilet at all with you. But I brought it in, I turned it off, and I put it in my bag, and I went to the bathroom, and I had to take a lot of deep breaths. And this is going to sound ridiculous to people that don't understand these feelings, but the panic receptors in my body are so strong because over years I have taught my brain, this is a scary place to be. Like, this is a threatening place to be. I'm terrified. I need my safety blanket with me. And so I went in for the first time without a safety blanket. And it was honestly one of the most scary things I had ever done, but also one of the most liberating things that I have ever done. And after that first initial time, I was like, I can do this. Because a lot of the time, a lot of my anxiety now is anxiety about being anxious later. So maybe the event itself did not give me anxiety, but I will be anxious about possibly being anxious about this thing later. And so going to the bathroom, the anxiety was low, surprisingly. But then I started getting anxiety, being like, okay, well, what if I think about this moment later and say, oh my God, I didn't take videos or photographs of me going to the toilet. What if I'm anxious about it later? And then I started getting anxious about being anxious. And I wanted to go back and start doing my rituals so badly, but I just couldn't live like this anymore. And so I left the bathroom, took a deep breath, really wanted to go back in there and do more obsessive weird things. And I did not fucking let myself. I moved one foot in front of the other and I walked myself to class. And I said, nothing bad is going to happen. Nothing bad happened, nothing bad is going to happen. And after that initial process, it started to get easier and easier and easier. And I will not say that it's perfect right now, but I will say it gets easier over time. And I will say that I went out the other night, for example, and going to a bathroom in a club is that's the top tier threat trigger for me. Being in a bathroom stall with a bunch of drunk people around me and lots of strangers, that is at the height of my anxious triggering. Okay, that's at the top of the mountain. And I happened to go out in a clubbing setting on Saturday. And luckily, I had been doing this exposure process for a while before, for must have been 10 days before, something like that. And I, first of all, when I got to the club, did not immediately start thinking about the toilet, which is what I do, okay? Because, again, I'm so obsessive about the toilet. I'm like, what's the toilet gonna be like? Is it gonna be scary? When am I gonna have to go pee? When I go pee, is it gonna be really horrible for me? And because of this exposure therapy, and because I had taken the threat of the toilet kind of away from my brain slightly for the past 10 days or whatever, I realized that I could enjoy my night so much more, okay? Not everyone around me was a threat anymore. I wasn't constantly thinking fight or flight. I was just able to enjoy the people around me. I obviously had little moments of anxiety, some drunk people trying to talk to me or whatever, but the whole night was not encompassed by this sense of threat and danger, okay? Because I had taken or started to take the threat of the toilet away from me. And so the whole day and the whole night, I wasn't thinking about the toilet, which I clearly was doing so much that it was overtaking every little part of my brain. And I could start to enjoy. I started to talk to people I didn't know. I started to dance without having to really, really be so aware of everyone around me and taking notes of everyone around me and, keeping them in my brain box and taking photographs of people around me and just knowing who everyone was. Like, I was able to just relax. And that was just due to the smallest thing, which was going to the bathroom without doing my obsessive rituals. And I could genuinely cry about how different I feel and how much more I'm able to enjoy life. Able to enjoy people. I can actually listen to people's conversations. I can actually say things that I would normally not say, just in case it would trigger me and say, oh, why did I say that? Am I a bad person? It's worlds apart, and it's only been about a couple weeks now that I've been doing this. And it was the scariest thing that I had ever done, but it was the most rewarding thing I had ever done. And I think that there's such a truth in the statement of if you're not uncomfortable, then you're not growing. Because I was so comfortable in being uncomfortable that I didn't want to put myself in a position of another kind of uncomfort. Sorry, not uncomfort. I just wanted to stay in this little box, and I didn't want to do anything scary to make myself feel better. And I finally did it. And I just want to say, if you are in this position, I will hold your hand while you do it, okay? I will hold your hand spiritually while you do it. Because I don't want you to live in that tiny, tiny little version of life anymore. It's not worth it, okay? And it's not fair, because there's nothing wrong with you. There's nothing wrong with you. There's nothing actually stopping you from experiencing this incredible world. You have the tools and you can do it. You can do it, and I believe in you. And I want everyone to live a life like this. And I know that there are so many OCD sufferers out there, okay? After talking about it online a bunch and just in general, I'm meeting so many of you, and it is not, I'm not okay with it overtaking our lives, okay? I'm not okay with it anymore. We can't just be surviving. We have to be living. And, I go back and forth. Last night I went out for dinner with my friends. I got very, very anxious and very triggered. And, it's not linear. It goes up and down. Sometimes I'm great, sometimes I'm not. But the great days now are much greater than they ever were. Before, I was really just living on this, quite linear level, and it would go up and down a little bit, but it was kind of low. And now I really feel like I am a human being, part of this universe. And It just feels really great. And yeah, I feel like I've been talking for ages, so I am gonna stop there. I could talk about this for hours and hours and hours and hours. This is my new obsession, taking life by the fucking balls and like living your life. We only have one. It is so unlikely that you would be here and you are here, okay? Let us just actually experience everything about life. That's great. Um and I love you guys, and I'm gonna go because I could honestly sit here and talk forever, but I'm gonna go. I have some people that need me to be of service to them, and I'm gonna go do that without being self-obsessed and thinking about all my triggers and all of that. I'm going to concentrate on the people that need me right now. So I love you guys so much. If you haven't subscribed, please make sure you do. It's super helpful to me, and you can see anytime I post anything. And I love you guys, and I can't wait to see you next time. Okay. Mwah. I love you guys. All right. Bye.